Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Fem Itachi is possessive of Naruto, part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Protect your sister, Naruto, a voice echoed in the darkness. You are the child of prophecy, I know. Naruto sat up in his bed, a panting mess with sweat soaking his sheets and clothing. He looked at his clock, and discovered that it was 5 o'clock in the morning, an entire hour before he usually woke up. Nevertheless, he had become accustomed to nightmares such as these, and rose from his bed with the full knowledge that sleep would continue to evade him, should he stubbornly choose to stay. The death of his father and his mother still haunted him, even after being given 2 years to come to terms with what had happened. On a day that was supposed to be filled with such joy, all he felt was immense sorrow. That night his sister was brought into this world, only for his parents to be taken away immediately after. Naruto. A gentle feminine voice softly called out from the other side of his bedroom door. Already compassed, Naruto turned toward his door, and answered, yes. As quietly as one could, the door was opened to reveal a beautiful woman with raven-colored hair and onyx eyes. She wore a simple dark-colored blouse underneath a lightly shaded yellow apron. She looked down at the child before her, and smiled sadly, the way she always did when she thought he wasn't looking. Having trouble sleeping again? The woman, her name Mikoto, asked after leaning forward to get to his level. Yes. Mikoto's expression grew a bit pensive, as she looked at the boy she had taken in 2 years ago. Kushina, Naruto's birth mother, had always said that her son was mature for his age, but mentioned that it came at a cost. He wasn't playful, friendly, or sociable in any way. Seemingly stern at all times, it was tough to crack through his proverbial shell and see the young child underneath. Despite herself, Mikoto smiled to lift the mood. Your brother and sister haven't woken up yet, and Izumi has gone on a trip with Fugaku. I was wondering if a strong boy would help me run some errands. I wonder if there's anyone in this house like that. She stroked her chin a bit, and smirked, as Naruto looked at her with a tilt of his head. Even Naruto was susceptible to clever paternal coercion. I can help you, Lady Mikoto, Naruto offered respectfully with a nod of the head. As he went into his closet to get dressed, Mikoto faltered a bit. 2 years, and he still spoke with her in such a formal way. She had never outright told him that he could refer to her as mother, but she'd be lying if she didn't relish such an idea. An eldest son was something she had always dreamed of having ever since Sasuke was born. Izumi was a great elder sister to Sasuke, but Mikoto wanted there to be a brotherly figure for her youngest to learn from and admire. I am ready, Naruto announced quietly after walking back into view. Mikoto smiled when she saw him, internally gushing over how much of a cutie-witty he was. He was dressed in the clothes she had purchased for him, making him look like an actual member of the clan. A short-sleeved t-shirt with a high collar, and a pair of shorts with shinobi sandals. Only his blonde hair made him stand out from other Uchiha children. Look at my handsome little man, she smiled with her hands on her hips. How did you get so handsome? Naruto blinked and shrugged his shoulders. My mother said that I got my looks from my father. Mikoto hummed, well, she was certainly correct. As you get older, I'll have to fight the girls off of you with a stick, she said before chuckling to herself. Soon after, the duo walked through the kitchen to the exit, with Mikoto making sure to grab her handbag on the way. Naruto honestly had no clue where they were going, but it didn't matter. This woman was his host, and had taken him in when he had nobody else. He owed her more than a few favors. As they walked the streets, many people who were starting their days stopped and bowed at the two, or more specifically, Naruto. All non-shinobi in the village treated him with complete respect, always bowing, and using the sama honorific when addressing him. He was the son of the 4th Hokage, after all the very man who saved the village from destruction. Mikoto frowned at the treatment, wishing that everyone would merely treat Naruto like an ordinary boy. This had never been an issue for the 3rd Hokage's son, Asuma Sarutobi, who for the most part, wasn't given any special status due to his parentage. No, Naruto was different. He was the son of the village's most celebrated, most revered hero. The two went to various stores and markets, buying several household supplies that they had been running low on. Naruto just stood at Mikoto's side and watched as she navigated through the village like an expert, apparently having gone through this routine many times before. It made him wonder. Lady Mikoto? He asked, speaking up for the first time in a while. She looked down at him incredibly quickly, as if excited he had spoken at all. Yes, Naruto. Do you miss being a shinobi? Mikoto pursed her lips in thought. That part of her life hadn't crossed her mind in quite some time. After giving birth to her eldest daughter, Izumi, 5 years ago, she had decided to retire from her shinobi career in favor of supporting her infant child. And now that she was essentially raising two 2-year-old children, along with Naruto and Izumi as well, ninjutsu had become a distant memory. I suppose I miss the excitement, she confessed with a small smile. However, I've now come to realize that there are things more important than being a shinobi. Naruto was caught in a rare moment of confusion. Like what? They both stopped in the middle of the street, and Mikoto kneeled in front of him with a smile. She then proceeded to tap him on the nose with her pointer finger. Well, you silly, she explained with a chuckle. You, Izumi, your brother, and your sister are all precious to me. I love you with all my heart. Naruto's eyebrows raised. Sasuke is my brother? He asked. He was always confused when she made it seem as if they were actually related. Mikoto smiled. Of course he is. Do you see the way Sasuke's eyes light up whenever he sees you? You are his favorite person in the whole world, his big brother. I think that is what he would want you to be for him. Don't you think so? I'm Sasuke's big brother. Mikoto nodded with a smile. Perhaps he was finally beginning to understand. Looking at his innocent face, for once not stuck in a look of seriousness, she decided to say something she had wanted to say for quite a while. She just hoped that if Kushina were somewhere watching, she would approve of what was about to be said. However, knowing her old friend, she knew that she would. Yes, Sasuke is your little brother, which would also make me your mother. Naruto looked up at her, and blinked several times. She assumed that for Naruto, this was pretty much the same as an ordinary person tripping forward in surprise. As she waited anxiously for him to respond, she hoped to God that she hadn't crossed any boundaries. Naruto was old enough to remember his mother, and the last thing Mikoto wanted was him thinking she was trying to replace Kushina. Okay, I understand now, Naruto said after having compassed himself. Thank you for taking me out with you this morning, mother. Everything froze, and the world seemed to light up around her. After all of this time, she felt that she had finally broken through. She had finally made it clear to Naruto just how she felt about him, as a part of her life. He wasn't a guest at her house, he was family. She embraced him, and cried into his shoulder. Naruto was confused, but remained still until she finished. He owed her as much, after all, and he would probably never be finished repaying her. Father, what are we doing here? Izumi asked calmly, as she and her father stood at the edge of a dock. Fugaku, a stern man, and the patriarch of the Uchiha family, stood with his arms crossed, and his eyes closed. Quite unlike his wife, he was never one for small talk or touching moments. As the leader of his clan, it was his duty to manage things, and that required a level head, and even mind. Show me, was all he said. Izumi was smart enough to figure out what he was requesting, and nodded before weaving through several hand signs. Once she reached the end, she placed her hands in the tiger seal, and filled her chest to capacity with fire chakra. Once it reached the limit, she expelled the chakra out of her mouth in the form of a flame, a continuous torrent of fire that covered a significant portion of the lake before dissipating after being extinguished. Other than whitening of the eye, nothing much changed in Fugaku's demeanor, as he watched his daughter's impressive display. Displays of utter genius were something he had come to regularly expect from her, after all. You are capable of this, and yet you lost your place at the top of the class. It wasn't a criticism, nor was there any anger behind his words, just curiosity. Izumi turned to face him, her expression calm, not offended by his words in the slightest. Naruto-kun was transferred to my class recently, father. Upon hearing the news, Fugaku's shoulders sagged in a bit of relief. At least it was Naruto, a ward of the Uchiha clan, who stood atop the academy rankings. His worst fear was that nobody would surpass his daughter for the top spot. He hated having to be so superficial, but such things mattered now that the clan's standing in the village had taken a steep decline. That boy is an ear-defining talent. I cannot fault you for being behind him, Fugaku said, in his own attempt at reassurance. He is not a fair comparison for anyone your age. Izumi noted a hint of pride in her father's voice, and it made her happy. Out of all the members of their family, her father had been the least close with Naruto. Therefore, to hear that he was at least proud of the strength of his adopted charge brought Izumi great relief. She would be sure to inform mother later. Nevertheless, I don't want you to be content standing behind him, Fugaku continued, as he and his daughter left the dock. Attempt to surpass him, or at the very least reach him. You represent the Uchiha at the utmost level. Izumi tilted her head, but Naruto is a member of our clan. He represents the Uchiha as well. Fugaku shook his head. You are wrong. He is a ward of this clan. Only someone of our blood can be called our kin, he explained. We can care for him, as if he is one of our own, but he will always be an outsider in some ways. He may represent us, as you say, but only to an extent. You are of my blood, and I wish for you to stand at the top. If Naruto is not one of us, then how does he have the— Fugaku turned to her sharply, sternly interrupting her words. That piece of information is not to be spoken aloud, he explained. The Hokage forbade it until he deems it to be public knowledge, and I agree with his decision. For now, make no mention of Naruto's eyes. Understood. Yes, father. The father-daughter duo then walked through the streets of Konoha in relative silence. Neither were considerably talkative, and were actually more content to just observe and listen to others before speaking. Only when among the entirety of their family did they choose to open up a bit more, but they never became chatty. Naruto was similar to them in that regard. Father. Yes, I like spending time with Naruto. I don't see him as an outsider. Fugaku merely gave her a momentary side glance before switching his attention back forward. Izumi knew that if he disapproved of what she had said, he would have made it known, so she took his silence as acceptance. He may view Naruto as a mere guest in their house, but she didn't, and apparently, he was okay with her feeling that way. You're to remain friends with that boy only, do you understand? he then said, ending the unspoken communication with a verbal statement. Izumi honestly had no clue what he meant. What could we be other than friends, father? Yugaku's shoulders sagged as he realized what he had gotten himself into. Not in the mood to explain the concept of puberty and romantic relationships at the moment, and to be honest, he probably never would be. He decided not to expand upon what he had said. You will understand when you are older. But for now, just do as I say. I'll ask again, do you understand? Izumi nodded, knowing that there was no other alternative when given a command from her father. Nevertheless, a part of her was still curious about what he meant, but she decided to simply forget about it. Her father deemed it unnecessary to tell her, so she would just do as he said. Still, she wasn't finished speaking. What do you think of Naruto, father? Do you resent him? She asked. Her father looked down at her sternly. What has gotten into you today, child? He asked, apparently not a fan of being asked so many questions. I am merely curious, father. Yugaku fixed his stern gaze on his daughter for a few moments longer before sighing. Naruto living with us makes your mother happy, he explained. Izumi opened her mouth to speak again, but a look from her father told her that he would be receiving no more questions today. Deciding that she had been pushing her luck as it was, she closed her mouth and remained silent as they made their trek back home. That evening, Naruto and Izumi had just returned from the academy. For the most part, they hadn't spoken to each other all day, which wasn't unusual. Naruto was probably even less talkative than her father, and with her being who she was, there wasn't much conversation to be had. Still, she relished this time together with him. He was her best friend, her most precious person. As she reached for the sliding doors of their home, she looked at Naruto with a knowing smile. Are you ready? She asked. Naruto simply nodded, and the two entered through the sliding door and into the mudroom, a small room or entryway where footwear and outerwear can be removed before entering a house. As soon as they removed their sandals, they heard the padding of tiny feet on the wooden floors and knew they were about to be bombarded. Big brother. Two babyish voices shouted at once, and Naruto sighed as he realized he was the victim of the day. The first little blur slammed into his legs, and he looked down to see Sasuke gazing up at him with a mixture of love and excitement. Then, the second one attacked. Somehow, his little sister, Mito, became airborne and latched onto his face like an annoying little tick. His little sister then began tugging on his hair, as if it were a toy. Izumi merely watched in amusement, as Naruto was showered with all the love and affection that was humanly possible. Despite it all, he remained stone-faced, which only made the scene even more hilarious. He was like a statue with two little children climbing all over him. It was amusing, to say the least. Izumi, get them off. Izumi hummed, I don't know, Naruto, I don't think that's what they'd want. Right. Mito looked at Izumi with a 2D grin, not what we want. Not what we want. She chanted before planting a wet kiss on her elder brother's cheek. Sasuke remained standing on the floor, near Naruto's legs, and looked back toward Izumi. He frowned at her, and wrapped his little arms around Naruto's leg possessively. Izumi could only sigh in amusement. Sasuke had always been incredibly possessive of his big brother Naruto. It was actually very odd. Despite Sasuke being Izumi's biological sister, Naruto seemed to be his favorite elder sibling. The opposite was true as well, with Mito favoring Izumi a bit more. Izumi herself couldn't complain though, as she knew that the two children were merely attached to sibling figures that were the same gender as them. Mito then looked toward Izumi, and leaped from Naruto's face toward her. She was caught deftly in her elder sister's arms, and she buried her little face in his sister's chest. Naruto seemed to be relieved to have been removed of the little pest, but was forced to look down when he felt a tugging on his pants. He then saw Sasuke extending his hands, evidently desiring to be held. Naruto sighed before reaching down, and taking the little boy in his arms. Sasuke smiled up at him lovingly, and Naruto remembered what Mikoto had told him earlier in the day. Sasuke indeed considered him to be his elder brother. Sasuke then looked toward Izumi and Mito, and scowled. Girls are annoying, big brother, he said in a pouty voice. Naruto followed his brother's gaze, and could barely make out Izumi telling Mito some kind of story, with the latter of the two laughing like an evil little goblin. God, she was a weird kid. That may be so, but it will one day be your job to protect those two, Sasuke, Naruto said, earning a look of confusion from his brother. It is your duty, as a man. The duty? Naruto frowned, realizing Sasuke wasn't at the point at which he could understand such things. This was one of the reasons he didn't like infant children. They were no more intelligent than dogs. You will understand someday, Naruto explained. Okay, big brother. I'll be smart and strong like you. Naruto felt something tugging at his chest, and quickly realized that it was affection. No matter how much he concealed his emotions, it was undeniable that he cared for Sasuke to the very same extent that he cared for his Mito. There was no denying it now. Lady Mikoto was right. Lady Mikoto will have prepared dinner for us by now, Naruto explained before hoisting Sasuke up, and placing him on his shoulders, causing the child to giggle with glee. Let's go, little brother, he then said, causing Sasuke's eyes to widen in surprise. His mouth opened and closed several times before muttering in awe, "Big brother just said." Izumi was unable to hear the rest, however, as Naruto carried Sasuke out of the mudroom and toward the kitchen where she had little doubt a meal would be waiting. After they left, she looked at where they had been standing with a small smile on her face. That was the first time Naruto had ever addressed Sasuke as a sibling. It was certainly a moment to remember. "Big sis," Mito said, poking Izumi's cheek with her finger. "I'm hungry." Izumi sighed. "You're always hungry, Mito," she responded. "Feed me." She sighed once more. Mito really was a strange little girl. "Mother will feed you. I'll take you to her now." A night like all others. Naruto stood in his room, alone, as sleep evaded him for yet another evening. The house was quiet, so he knew that everyone was fast asleep. He made sure not to make any movements that would perhaps wake anyone up, and just stared at himself in the mirror. His mother had been right all those years ago when she said he had inherited his looks from his father. The spiky mop of blonde hair, the cerulean eyes, and the angular face made him nearly a copy of the fourth Hokage. Only the strange, whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks made him appear any different. He then, however, closed his eyes, only to open them once more to see a striking change. No longer were they like his father's baby blues, for they were now blood red, with two tomo surrounding the pupils. They were the Sharingan, the legendary of Uchiha clan. The eyes that reflect the heart, he mumbled to himself. If one were to ask how he awakened such eyes without any Uchiha blood running through his veins, he'd be unable to answer. Not even Lord Fugaku, the very head of the clan, had any idea why he had awakened the precious. Nevertheless, he decided to take him in after making the discovery, not wanting the Sharingan to exist outside of the clan's control if he could help it. Kakashi had already possessed one of their eyes, so they did not need another such person. Father, mother, he thought to himself, thinking back on the day they had died. He had been there, he had seen their bloodied bodies struggling so very much to stay alive, as they cradled his infant sister. "Protect your sister, Naruto," was all his father managed to say before passing. "You are the child of prophecy, I know." To what prophecy was he referring? Naruto had spent quite some time trying to figure it all out, but he was no closer to understanding now than he had been 2 years ago. It had become so evasive that he ended up forgoing his goal to discover the truth. Suddenly, he felt a knocking on his door. He quickly deactivated his Sharingan, and quietly walked over to see who it was. To his immense surprise, it wasn't Lady Mikoto or Izumi, Lord Fugaku. That dress, boy. The man was fully clothed himself, looking as if he were prepared for duty. After giving his charge some time to get dressed, he gestured for Naruto to follow him before walking away. Not one to disobey, Naruto did, as told, and followed with confusion, as he and his legal guardian exited the house into the darkened streets of Konoha. They were empty, minus the occasional person out purchasing items after hours, so they made it to their destination without any real setbacks. To Naruto's surprise, they entered a training ground, one adjacent to a river. The moon reflected off of it to create a beautiful scene. "Activate your eyes, boy." It was then that Naruto realized Lord Fugaku's Sharingan was activated, shining a dull red in the darkness of the night. A fully matured Sharingan with 3 tomo. Naruto then focused the chakra to his eyes, and opened them to reveal his very own crimson red Sharingan. "Try to kill me." Naruto's eyes widened. "Pardon, Lord Fugaku." The man's expression hardened. "If you are to possess the eyes of the clan, you will know how to use them in battle," he explained. "Now, do as I say. If you do not fight with the intent to kill, you will be wasting my time." Almost before he could finish, he was forced to tilt his head to avoid being hit by multiple shuriken. He almost smirked at the boy's poise with absolutely no hesitation when given the order to fight. Seeing his initial attack did not work, Naruto began weaving through hand signs. Fugaku quickly mimicked the signs using his Sharingan, and they both finished simultaneously, announcing theirs with perfect synchronization. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. 2 massive balls of flames, both equal in size, were expelled from their mouths. The two then collided in an inferno-inducing clash, cancelling each other out with equal force. When the flames dissipated, Naruto was out of sight, but Fugaku's trained senses allowed him to step back before his ankles were grabbed by 2 hands that burst out of the ground. Earth style. Impressive, he noted aloud before weaving through another set of hand seals. His chest expanded with hot chakra before he released it all at once. Fire style. Dragon flame bombs. This was superior to the standard fireball, and would incinerate the ground itself, forcing Naruto to escape above ground. Not even a second later, Naruto burst out of the ground several feet away from the blast radius, and was then forced to duck after Fugaku attempted to take his head off with a brutal kick. "Now to jutsu," the man remarked, before seemingly doing his very best to beat the boy to a pulp. Certainly, he wasn't trying his best, but he was still surprised by the boy's prowess. His moves were refined. His blocks and dodges were perfectly timed, and not a single movement was wasted. He was beginning to experience firsthand the pure genius of this child. Suddenly, the boy flipped over his head, and just barely managed to pierce Fugaku through the back, hitting a vital point, and drawing quite a bit of blood. Despite seemingly mortally wounding his gracious host, Naruto appeared virtually unaffected, even with specks of blood littering his cheeks. He was unsurprised when he heard a voice speak up from behind him. "So, can your eyes read through my..." Just as it was said, the Fugaku he had just pierced dissipated into the air, as if he had never been there in the first place, revealing it to have been an illusion. "Yes, Lord Fugaku," Naruto answered before shaving his kunai. He wasn't sure if his host had actually wanted him to answer the question, or if it was rhetorical, so he decided to answer anyway. The man's posture was relaxed, which told Naruto that the fight was now over. Naruto then bowed graciously, and waited for Fugaku-sama to give him further instructions. "Your eyes are keen, boy," the older man remarked. "Not many in the clan can see through me, yet you can." "Thank you, Lord Fugaku. But you still have much to learn," Fugaku continued, not wanting to give the boy a big head. "You and I will continue to meet here every evening after dinner to hone your eyes. Do you understand?" Naruto nodded in understanding, and turned to leave, assuming Fugaku-sama would do so as well. However, when he noticed he was not being followed, he turned around to see his new teacher standing exactly where he had been. "Is there something wrong, Lord Fugaku?" he asked. The man remained silent for several moments, his eyes closed, and his arms crossed. He was indeed a problematic person to maintain a conversation with, similar to Naruto ironically. "Are you not curious why I brought you out here, boy? Why did I decide to teach you?" Naruto's head tilted a bit in confusion. He thought that Lord Fugaku had brought him out to train his Sharingan. Was there really something more to it that he wasn't quite understanding? For all of his genius, even Naruto could not read a person's mind. Fugaku sighed, as he realized he would need to explain. "My family has paid you a great debt, boy," he explained. "My wife especially has gone far, and beyond the call of duty when it has come to you. Of course, Lord Fugaku, and I am..." "Let me finish," Fugaku interrupted harshly, shutting Naruto up instantly. The idea had entered his mind later today, after having spoken with his daughter. It was obvious that the rest of his family was incredibly close to Naruto, with even Sasuke referring to him as a sibling. Funny enough, Sasuke's first words were Naruto's name. "You exist to protect them," Fugaku continued. "Even if it means sacrificing your own life, you will protect Izumi and Sasuke. In doing so, you will have repaid the favor of this family, and the clan have gifted you. Is that acceptable?" Naruto didn't hesitate, not even for a single moment. "Of course it is, Lord Fugaku. I will protect them with my life." Yet another opponent fell, and rather quickly to boot. Izumi watched, as Naruto won the most recent of the many academy spars he had taken part in over the years. He had yet to lose any. Even though they had been allowed to skip several years of the academy, and were going up against students roughly 5 years older than them, Naruto and Izumi both still remained undefeated. And the winner is Naruto, the instructor, much to the chagrin of the boys in the class. A 7-year-old continually defeating them hurt their egos quite a bit, Izumi assumed. Izumi just didn't get it. She had long since realized that Naruto was stronger than her, and never felt as if she herself was inadequate. Because, unlike the rest of her peers, she was able to recognize just how talented Naruto actually was. People often called her a prodigy, but in her opinion, Naruto was the real prodigy of Konohagakure. "Congratulations on yet another victory, Naruto," she said after he returned to her side. Naruto shrugged. It was nothing impressive. "You would have trounced him, as well." His comments were heard by a couple of boys to their right, a group which included the very student he had just defeated. From what Izumi could remember, the boy's name was Tenma Izumo. He hailed from a relatively obscure clan, but still remained incredibly prideful of his lineage. Predictably, he did not take Naruto's words well. "What was it you said, brat?" he asked, as he and his friends came forward. Naruto himself merely gave the group of bullies a glance, and said, "My apologies, I didn't mean to offend you." Tenma clenched his teeth in irritation. He hated Naruto and Izumi both, but Naruto especially. Why were they allowed to skip grades? Why would they be allowed to graduate early? And most of all, why was he unable to defeat them despite his best efforts? It wasn't fair in his opinion. "You know what? I'm not some nobody. I'm a member of the Izumo clan. We may not be as powerful as the Uchiha, but we're not weak." Tenma growled. "I was unaware your clan existed, Tenma. That is interesting. Please tell me about them." Izumi knew that this was Naruto trying to be nice, but on the outside, it honestly did seem as if he was making a subtle jab toward the obscurity of Tenma's clan. Naruto's lack of experience with socializing would sometimes bite him in the butt, leading to awkward conversations and situations. As she guessed, Tenma only became angrier, and gripped the front of Naruto's shirt tightly, pulling the younger boy toward him. The lack of fear on Naruto's face just seemed to frustrate Tenma even more, and he clenched even harder, nearly lifting the 7-year-old Uzumaki off the ground. "Never took you for a guy who had jokes, Uzumaki," he growled. "How about we teach you what happens to jocksters?" "Tenma, what are you doing?" Naruto asked, though for whatever reason his voice sounded very different. His eyes widened, and he released his chakra just as they were taught by the instructors to do. Upon doing so, the Naruto he had been gripping by the shirt faded away, revealing it to actually be one of his friends. Arching his head to look forward, he saw Naruto and Izumi standing there, as if nothing had happened. "In jutsu," he growled. "You Uchiha brats, and you're damn." Izumi, the perpetrator of the, remained silent. Naruto, on the other hand, looked at her with an appraising glance, apparently impressed by her. "Did Lord Fugaku teach you that?" he asked. She shook her head. "No. I learned it on my own." Tenma became enraged once more, and appeared, as if he were about to unleash his fury before the class was interrupted by their instructor. The man waited until he had everyone's undivided attention before he decided to speak. His voice was incredibly deep, and practically boomed throughout the entire training area. "We have a new student joining our class today. Please treat him with kindness, and make him feel welcome." It was then everyone noticed the young boy standing at his side. He was dressed in a formal white kimono, with pale skin, shaggy white hair, and attractive facial features. However, what was most notable were his eyes. They were pale, with a hint of lavender, making it almost seem as if he were blind. It was the Byakugan, the signature eye of the Hyuga clan. "This is Toneri. He had been granted the opportunity to skip up to our class. I'd like for all of you to do your best to help him get caught up to the current curriculum. Remember, as future Konoha shinobi, you must learn to care for and assist your comrades. Do you understand?" The instructor. "Yes, sensei," everyone said in unison, clearly not enthused at all. Naruto, however, was curious about the boy in front of him, and subtly activated his Sharingan, an action only noticed by Izumi, who raised a brow at the display. Naruto rarely took an interest in others, so to see him going as far as to activate his Sharingan meant that he saw something that intrigued him. "What do you see, Naruto?" His response took a few moments to come out. "His chakra is strong, and strange, as well," was all he said before his eyes returned to their cerulean blue color. Izumi looked away from the new student, shifting her attention entirely to Naruto. "How so?" she asked. "I can't explain," Naruto revealed. "All I can say is that it is very potent." Izumi was beginning to get intrigued as well, "Like yours?" she said. Naruto nodded. "It is close." This boy had chakra that rivaled Naruto's. That was something Izumi thought that she would never hear. The son of the fourth Hokage had massive reserves, rarely ever tiring or running low on chakra. She was aware that it was a trait of the Uzumaki clan, but also noted that Naruto's chakra was particularly powerful, even by their standards. "Geez, another little brat is joining our class," Tenma complained. He figured this kid would be unreasonably strong, as well. Oddly enough, the new kid, Toneri, as he was called, ignored all others, and headed straight for Naruto. It was like he was being attracted by some kind of invisible force, weaving through everyone else until he was face to face with the number one student in the class. "You must be Naruto," he greeted, his voice calm. "The honorable son of the fourth Hokage, and ward of the Uchiha clan." Then veins become visible around Toneri's eyes and temples, a sign that he had activated his Byakugan. He seemed to scan over Naruto's body, similarly to how Naruto had done to him earlier. However, the Byakugan was unique in the sense that it could literally see into a person's chakra coils. Therefore, Toneri was quite literally looking into and through Naruto. "And your chakra is amazing, as expected," Toneri finished, deactivating his eyes. "I hope that my chakra impressed you, as well when you took your little peek, Naruto." So he noticed Naruto observing him earlier. That was admittedly pretty impressive, demonstrating that Toneri was at the very least an incredibly perceptive individual. Izumi, however, assumed that there was far more to this boy than just an intelligent mind. "You are Hyuga?" Naruto asked, not commenting on Toneri's previous statements. Toneri smiled, and shook his head. "I am as much of a Hyuga as you are an Uchiha, Naruto. Quite like yourself, I am simply a guest to the clan." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "You seem to know quite a bit about me." The tension was beginning to get a bit high, mostly due to Naruto's reclusive nature. He didn't like people knowing a lot about him, especially strangers. This Toneri fellow was demonstrating knowledge regarding information that he shouldn't know at all. Toneri's smile remained. "I apologize, you are someone who interests me, so I decided to be thorough when asking about you," he confessed. His answer was good enough to satisfy Naruto's curiosity, so there was no more conversation to be had. Oddly enough, Toneri remained at his side, as they watched the remaining academy spars. Izumi absent-mindedly noticed that Toneri was paying absolutely no attention to the matches, choosing to openly stare at Naruto. Then, it was announced that it was his turn to fight, a surprise, as it was his first day. Izumi was curious about his style, and watched, as he stood across from a much taller boy at the center of the sparring circle. As soon as she saw the look on his face, the small smile, and the air of calmness, she knew that he was most definitely going to win. "Begin," the instructor ordered, bringing his hand down to signal the beginning of the match. It happened quickly. The larger boy lunged forward, faster than most in the class would be able to. But Toneri weaved past the punch, and delivered a palm strike into his opponent's abdomen, sending him staggering back. The boy clenched his stomach in pain, having apparently suffered internal injuries due to the attack. The match was clearly over. However, Toneri didn't seem to agree, and blurred forward in an impressive showing of speed, to give the finishing blow a second strike, which would undoubtedly leave long-lasting damage. The academy instructors panicked, but were unable to move quickly enough to stop it in time. If left unable to defend himself, this boy would be hospitalized. Izumi felt a slight shift in the air next to her, and smiled, as she realized things would be okay. Right before Toneri could hit his opponent again, a hand quickly gripped his wrist in a vice. The grip was indeed tight enough to cause pain, but he didn't seem affected, deciding it more important to smile at the person who had stopped him. "You are very fast, Naruto," he complimented, looking into the blonde's intimidating Sharingan eyes, which were quickly deactivated before anyone else could see. The spar was over. Naruto lectured calmly before releasing Toneri's wrist. Toneri's head tilted like a confused puppy. "I don't understand. A fight is not over until your opponent is dead or incapacitated to the point where they cannot continue. That is how it is explained in the Shinobi Handbook." Naruto crossed his arms, his mouth contorted into a severe line. As usual, that was not a fight, it was a spar between comrades. The head instructor then decided that it was a good time to get involved. "Well said, Naruto," he said in approval, before switching his attention to Toneri. "And you, young man, will be coming with me to meet with the headmaster after class. You must learn how things work here at the academy. This is not like your training with the Hyuga." "I understand, please forgive me," Toneri requested with a bow. The instructor sighed, clearly stressed out about the incident report he would have to submit about this. Deciding that doing such work would only serve to irritate him and keep him here longer than he needed to be, he decided that a warning was enough, that a trip to the headmaster actually wasn't necessary. He sighed, "Fine, just don't let this happen again." Toneri nodded in understanding before looking toward Naruto with a smile. "Thank you, Naruto," he said. "You saved me from a lot of trouble." Naruto quietly walked away back toward Izumi, and the two prepared to return home after class was dismissed for the day. Though, as they left, Izumi noticed Toneri watched them intently in the corner of her eye. "Come now, and stop babbling like a fool," Naruto lectured, as he and Sasuke were walking through the streets of Konoha. Sasuke was gripping his younger brother's hand with his own tiny appendage, but was having trouble keeping up due to his stubby legs. Eventually, he became frustrated, and began pouting and complaining, as all children did, much to Naruto's irritation. Mikoto-sama had lamented that he spent more quality time with Sasuke, so he was taking the young child to the river, where he would teach him how to fish. As expected, Sasuke was excited, as could be by the news, and practically bolted out of his room after being informed. "Big brother," he said, continuing to complain. "My legs are tired." Naruto stopped and sighed before placing the two fishing poles and the tackle box on the ground. He then crouched down so Sasuke could climb atop his shoulders. The boy climbed up with glee, and after making sure he was secure, Naruto picked the equipment back up and rose to his feet. "Grab my head tightly, and don't allow yourself to fall." He could feel the bottom of Sasuke's chin tap against the top of his head, as the boy nodded in understanding. He could feel the corners of his mouth curling up a bit despite himself. Now that it was just the two of them, Naruto felt his affection for his new little brother reach new heights. The brothers continued on in relative silence, watching, as the crowds of villagers passed them by, with many stopping to bow to Naruto, as they did so, utter words of praise and thanks. Sasuke could only watch in extreme confusion, as these strangers he had never before met acted so familiar with his big brother. "Big brother, do you know them?" he asked, feeling possessive. He didn't know that his big brother was so famous. "No?" Sasuke tilted his head to look down at his big brother's face. "Then, why do they act like they know you?" Naruto frowned a bit, as he had to explain, "Because they are sycophants." "Is being a Saicho fan the same as being friendly?" "No, Sasuke," Naruto responded tersely. "It is not." Even Sasuke, as young as he was, could tell that his big brother didn't want to talk about it anymore, so he held his tongue. His brother always had a way of answering questions in a way that made things even more confusing. Sasuke even asked his mother once why that was, and all she said was, "Your big brother is a smart boy," and continued on making dinner. Deciding he didn't like the silence, Sasuke spoke up again. "I'm going to catch a big fish, big brother," he declared with a megawatt smile. So big that it could feed the whole clan. Naruto looked up to see his little brother's happy face looking down at him, and couldn't help but smile at himself. "You have to learn how to catch fish first, Sasuke. After that, you can get to work feeding the clan." "Yeah, but you'll be teaching me, big brother," Sasuke responded. "You're the best at everything." Naruto's smile persisted. "Actually, Izumi is much better at fishing than I am," he confessed. Sasuke looked down, his expression aghast. "No, big brother. You're lying," he said, not believing it for a second. Shaking his head in amusement, Naruto continued on until they finally reached the dock. Where he stood before it, he could not help but be dragged into the past. He had been here many times during his childhood, but hadn't returned since his parents died. This was the first time. "We're here, Sasuke," he announced quietly before placing the equipment on the dock and lifting his brother off of his shoulders. Opening the tackle box, he pulled out two fishing bobbers, a plain one for himself, and one designed to look like the Uchiha emblem for Sasuke. The two siblings then tossed their lines into the water, with Naruto doing the majority of Sasuke's work for him, and sat in silence as they waited for a bite. Why would a fish bite a hook, big brother? Sasuke asked, ending the comfortable silence. Naruto looked at Sasuke from the corner of his eye, because, Sasuke, the lures at the end of our lines attract the fish, and trick them into thinking that they are biting food. That's dumb, big brother. I wouldn't fall for that. I would hope that you wouldn't, Naruto continued with a slight smile. Fish are not intelligent creatures, at least when compared to humans. They are easy to trick because of this. His explanation seemed to be satisfactory, as Sasuke bounced his head up and turned back to watch his bobber floating on the water's surface. His big brother told him that when a fish bit on his hook, the bobber would be pulled underwater, and when it did, he would have to pull on his fishing rod and reel it in, whatever that meant. He was just going to pull on his fishing rod really hard. Naruto waited calmly, watching both his and Sasuke's bobbers with his keen eyes. There was a possibility that Sasuke wouldn't be able to react fast enough to catch a fish since he was so young, so Naruto was ready to help as soon as he needed to. Hey, big brother. Who taught you how to fish? Naruto felt memories bombard his mind at the question. My father taught me, he calmly explained. Sasuke was a bit surprised. Father taught you? Asked. Then why isn't he the one teaching me? Naruto shook his head. Your father and my father are not the same people, Sasuke. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise, and his blood went cold at what he heard. How was that possible? How could his big brother have a different dad? That was impossible. Then, how are you my big brother? Sasuke asked, scared of what the answer might be. Naruto remained calm, having known this day would eventually come. You parents were kind, and took me in when I had no home, Sasuke, he explained. You and I are not related by blood. What about me though? Sasuke asked with a sniffle. This would be that part that hurts. She is my sibling by birth, Sasuke. But it doesn't mean that So you're not my real big brother then? Sasuke interrupted immaturely, standing up to his feet. I bet you love me more. Of course not, no? Sasuke shouted, not wanting to hear any of it. You're not my real big brother. You're a liar, and I hate you. He then threw his fishing rod into the river, and ran off in the opposite direction toward their house. Naruto watched him go with a somber expression. This had definitely not been how he had expected today to go. He looked back toward the water, and saw Sasuke's fishing rod floating at the surface. The rod had belonged to him when he was a child, and was a gift from his father. He had intended to pass it on to Sasuke today, but it seemed that would now be a fruitless endeavor. Sighing, he made a cross-like hand seal, and in a puff of smoke, a perfect replica of himself appeared at his side. It was a solid clone, created through the use of the shadow clone. He then turned toward his clone, and spoke calmly, follow him from a distance, and make sure he gets home safely. The clone nodded before leaping up, and landing on the nearby rooftops, which he would use to follow Sasuke while remaining unseen. Once that was taken care of, Naruto focused chakra to the soles of his feet, and began walking on the water's surface to retrieve the fishing rod. Once he reached it, he took it in his hands, and looked at it with a sad smile. So many happy memories were created with this fairy fishing rod, and he had hoped that he could use it to create even more with Sasuke. This was truly a saddening day. He then saw his reflection on the surface of the water, and was reminded of something. 3 years ago, don't fall behind, Naruto, Minato warned with a smile, as they made their way toward the dock. The fish will all swim away before we get there. Naruto hurried forward to reach his father's side. Sorry, father, he said. Suddenly, his father grabbed him by his waist, and lifted him up so that he could sit on top of his shoulders. Naruto looked around, and noticed everyone in the village was looking at him, and smiling. Everyone loved the Hokage, and his son, and found the entire scene to be incredibly sweet. Naruto decided to ignore them, as usual. An odd trait for a child, Naruto liked it when things were quiet. It allowed him to observe the vast and exciting world around him without any interruptions. There was so much for him to see, so much for him to learn, and quite honestly, the possibility of learning about it all was one of the few things that actually made him excited. We're here, Naruto, Minato said before setting down the fishing rods, and placing his son in the dock. It took a few moments for his father to get everything set up, so Naruto settled for looking around the river. He saw many organisms coexisting in this beautiful ecosystem, and was fascinated. He then looked down at the water's surface, and saw his reflection, watching, as it copied his every expression and movement. It's like a mirror, father, Naruto commented innocently before looking back up to see his father extending a child-sized fishing rod toward him. It is beautiful, isn't it? Minato responded before nodding toward the fishing rod. Here, take it. Naruto thanked his father before gently grabbing the fishing rod in his hands. He looked over it, and could tell that it was a bit old, definitely not something his father purchased recently. My father gave this to me when I was your age, Naruto, Minato explained with a smile. And now I'm giving it to you. Naruto's eyes widened, it's that old. Minato leaned his head back, and laughed a bit before responding. What are you saying? He asked. That your father is an old man. Naruto nodded. You're much older than me, father. Minato chuckled a bit more before sitting on the edge of the dock, and gesturing for his son to do the same. They both then cast their lines, and waited patiently to get a bite. Naruto. Yes, father. Minato looked at his boy with a somewhat severe expression. Someday, when you're older, and when that fishing rod is too small for you, I want you to pass it on to someone that is precious to you, so they can enjoy it too. Do you understand? Naruto nodded. Yes, father. I understand. Satisfied, Minato ruffled his son's hair before looking back at the water. Alrighty then, let's catch some fish so your mother can cook us some dinner. Present, Naruto remained standing on the water's surface, content to just stare at the gift his father had given him those years ago. Whenever he was reminded of his parents, he felt himself flooded with sadness. Memories which would have once been considered pleasant were now wrought with reminders of what he had lost. Suddenly, he felt a familiar chakra signature appear behind him, and looked over his shoulder to see who it was. So, you know how to walk on water already, as well, Naruto? Toneri asked with a smile, standing roughly 5 feet away from his new classmate. What are you doing here? Naruto asked, not at all in the mood to talk. Toneri smiled. I already told you that you are a person who interests me, Naruto. So you're following me around now? Toneri nodded, seemingly unashamed. Naruto was a bit surprised that it took until now for him to sense Toneri's presence, but chalked it up to the white-haired boy being able to suppress his chakra. It was yet another sign that this person was not normal, and he was quickly beginning to find himself on Naruto's radar. I saw what happened with your younger brother, Toneri commented, causing Naruto to tense up. I was sorry to see that. I hope you guys can rekindle your relationship. Maybe. He was interrupted, as he was forced to take a step back, as Naruto was nearly instantly within an inch of his face, his Sharingan blazing with anger. He noted just how fast Naruto was able to get so close to him before he could blink, but then noted the glare he was receiving. Did I overstep my bounds, Naruto? He asked with his signature smile. Stay away from Sasuke, Naruto warned. Sharingan eyes that would have intimidated almost anyone else seemed to peer directly into Toneri's soul. Toneri put his hands up in a placating gesture. I will, Naruto, I assure you. It is only you that interests me. I didn't mean to give you the wrong impression. I hope you can forgive me. Naruto stared at Toneri, his expression calm, and his eyes blazing with fury. He knew that a part of his anger stemmed from the loss of his bond with Sasuke, but a genuine piece of him was beginning to get sick of this Toneri fellow rather quickly. Stay away from me, as well, he warned. His eyes then narrowed, as the boy across from him chuckled. I cannot do that, Naruto, Toneri responded. Can you not feel the connection between us? It is invisible, yet I can feel it so clearly. Naruto's eyes narrowed. This individual was proving to be more than just a bit odd. No, this was seeming more like a growing obsession. Naruto had no idea what connection he was referring to, but if Toneri didn't back off, they were going to have problems. While he was never a fan of violence or fighting, if someone began following him while he was with his loved ones, he'd defend what was precious to him. Follow me again, and you will be met with more than just a warning, Naruto said. Please do not make me need to take action against you. And with that, in a swirl of leaves, he was gone. Toneri merely looked at where he was standing with a smile. Ha, so he can use the body flicker too. When Izumi arrived home, she certainly expected to be met with the presence of a small child. Her mother had taken Mito out to run errands, which left Sasuke alone to spend the afternoon with Naruto. She had expected them to have returned by now, considering how much time it had been, but when she came home, Sasuke did not come to greet her, as he usually did. Good, you're here now, a voice suddenly spoke up from the corner. She turned, and saw Naruto with his eyes closed, and his arms crossed, though there was something weird about him. He felt like Naruto, yes, but he also seemed incomplete. Are you a shadow clone? Izumi asked, receiving a nod in response. At least Sasuke do you now, the clone said before dispelling in a cloud of smoke. Ah, so Naruto had left a shadow clone to watch over Sasuke in his absence. Naruto usually used shadow clones when he was too busy to do something himself, which meant that he was probably out doing something serious. Maybe he was training with her father again. She walked out of the mudroom, and entered the house. She half expected to see her little brother playing in the kitchen or the living room, but was surprised to see that he was not there. Knowing there was only one other place that he could be, she softly walked toward his bedroom, expecting to see him playing with his toys. What she found, however, was a 3-year-old child who looked utterly depressed. The lights in his room were off, and he was laying face first in his pillow, which was muffling the clear sounds of crying. Sasuke? She said, speaking softly so as not to startle him. The muffled voice of a child responded, go away. Izumi sighed, realizing that she was going to have to console a child. Still, it pained her to see her little brother so upset, so she decided to try her best to help him. What's wrong, Sasuke? She asked. Does this have something to do with your big brother? Sasuke's face shot up from his pillow, dripping with tears, and contorted into a vicious glare. He's not my big brother. He growled, actually causing Izumi's eyes to widen. He's a fake. And Mito's a fake. Everything made sense after that. So, Sasuke had finally discovered that Naruto and Mito didn't share any blood relation with their family. A part of her assumed that he knew, since 2 parents with black hair don't produce blonde and red-haired children. Though to be fair, this was a 3-year-old she was dealing with. Did Naruto tell you? She asked. Sasuke stuffed his face back into his pillow and nodded. Why Naruto chose today of all days to reveal the truth, she would never know, but knowing him, it was something that he couldn't avoid. Either way, Sasuke had to learn sooner or later, so she supposed it was now or never. She placed her hands on his shoulder until he finally looked toward her. Naruto and Mito are the children of the 4th Hokage, she explained, causing Sasuke's eyes to widen. On the day Mito was born, their parents died, and he had nowhere else to live. Our mother was friends with their mother, so she took them into our family. So it's true. Sasuke mumbled to himself before crying once more. It was clear that a part of him was hoping it was a lie or joke. Izumi decided that it was time to bandage this emotional wound. Her mother would certainly be the person most suited for this task, no doubt, but she wasn't here, so Izumi figured Sasuke would need to settle for her instead. She thought long and hard before finally speaking. Naruto loves you, Sasuke, she explained softly. And no matter what you say now, I know that you love him. You two are not related by blood, that is true, however, your bond is even greater than that. Siblings usually don't get to choose one another, but you two were granted that opportunity. That makes your love more special. Sasuke sniffled again. Oh really? Izumi nodded. Really, and you know something, Sasuke. I think Naruto would be very happy if his little brother gave him a big hug when he came home. Do you think he'd like that? Their brother chuckled and wiped his eyes. Yeah. I bet he thinks about my hugs all day long. He tries to act all cool, but I know he likes them. His quick shift in emotion made her smile. Children were so complicated, yet at the same time, so simple. Well, there you go, Izumi said before standing up. Now, let's get you cleaned up before everyone returns home. They prepared to go to the bathroom, but were interrupted by the sound of the sliding doors of the mudroom opening. Sasuke looked up toward his big sister, as if asking her permission, and she nodded. Immediately after, Sasuke darted into the mudroom to see Naruto removing his sandals, his expression the same, as always. Big brother. He shouted, surprising Naruto before running forward and hugging his legs. I'm sorry that I threw your fishing rod, big brother. Sasuke said, burying his face into Naruto's leg out of shame. And I'm sorry I was mean to you. Initially, he received no response, but then felt a familiar hand place itself atop his head before ruffling his hair. Sasuke looked up to see his big brother looking down at him with a smile. His eyes then widened in surprise when he was handed the same fishing rod from earlier. My father gave this to me when I was your age, Sasuke, Naruto explained, unknowingly mimicking his father's very words to him from years ago. And now I'm giving it to you. To me? Sasuke asked with wide eyes. Naruto nodded before he remembered what his father told him. Just promise me something, Sasuke. Sasuke's head bobbed up and down, eager to please. Of course, big brother. Anything. One day, when you grow too big for this, I want you to give it to someone that is precious to you. Do you understand, Sasuke? Like who? Naruto smiled once more, for what felt like the 100th time today. That's for you to decide, he said before standing up and ruffling Sasuke's hair once more. Now come with me to the kitchen. You haven't eaten your lunch yet today. Sasuke's stomach growled, and he giggled before nodding and following his big brother to the kitchen. Okay, big brother. Izumi watched the whole thing with a smile. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.